the go. Welcome, everybody. And today I have a very special guest from the US, Howard Polansky, who has done an enormous amount, 16 years as a dentist, in the Navy as well, just to top it off. But most importantly, for everybody listening today, what he does is show you how to improve your cash flow and make your business better. So let me introduce Howard, the cash flow coach. Hello, Howard. Great to see you.
You as well, Craig. And I guess you're ahead of me. So this is going to be recorded in the future or back to the future, something like that, because you're on the other side of the date line.
That's okay, Howard. Here in Australia, we're always ahead of people. We're leaders in the world. We really are. And we love it that way. But I travel to the US and I've got to say, it's interesting that I leave and arrive before I leave.
When I was stationed in Japan with the Navy, it always threw people for a loop. How do you land the same day that you left? And well, just because the other way, I completely lose a day and I don't know where it went either.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about you. You've been a dentist for so long, and now you've flipped the switch, and instead of being a dentist, now you're involved with money. That seems like a big conversion to go from one to the other, because though dentists do make a good living, but they work hard for it, but they're literally hands-on, and now you're out of that. Tell us about that if you could, please.
Yeah, what I tell people now, Craig, is sometimes life leaves you little clues, and other times life hits you with a 2x4. My 2x4 moment was Sunday morning, Memorial Day weekend, which is the end of May 2018. Jaden, my older son, is 12 years old. I'm sitting next to his bed. He realizes I'm there and he says, "Dad." His voice is barely above a whisper. "Yeah, buddy." I lean over the bed. I put my ear over his mouth to make sure I can hear him. And he says three words I'll never forget. "Am I dying?" 12 days earlier, Jaden came home with a stomach ache. 3 days after the stomach ache, we're in the ICU at the Children's Hospital having emergency surgery. It was appendicitis that turned septic, 29 days in the hospital, 19 of them in the ICU, 8 straight days of sedation because he went to the operating room 5 times.
Wow.
After they take the tube out of his throat, they give him methadone and morphine to bring him down from the drugs he was on. So imagine your child looks like a heroin addict coming down from a high. And the very first question they will only ask you are those three little words. Am I dying?
Wow.
My first breath was, did I hear him correctly? My second breath was, do not lose it right now. I look him in the eyes. I tell him, no, you're not dying. You've had prayers from thousands of people all around the world, and you're going to be just fine. He looks at me. He knows I'm telling him the truth. He closes his eyes to get more rest. I walk outside the room, and then I broke. I was already miserable. I was burnt out from dentistry and I was taking it out on everyone around me. But when I broke, only one thought seared into my mind. If life is this fragile and I'm unhappy with the path that I'm on, burn the ships. It's over. That's what I did. I sold my practice September 2018, walked away from an entire career, from everything that I did in my adult life up until that point. Don't regret it. But I just literally had to have a clean break.
Wow. Yes, I think we could probably stop the podcast right here. And the messages that we get from that are so many and so powerful. Burn it down. That's just, yeah, an incredible story. And you hinted at this story when we first spoke. The first time we spoke, you hinted at this story, and I said I didn't want to hear it. Oops, sorry, my voice cracks. I didn't want to hear it. And I also said that I would tell you a story about me in return. And I haven't told this story either. So you're going to be the one that hears it first. I was a chronic asthmatic. I was born 3 months prim, 1966, in the middle of a desert. The nearest town was and you'll understand this one, 408 miles away. And I was born 3 months premature. So I had a bit of a tough time. And every year my parents were told, no, he's never going to see another birthday, never going to see another birthday. And I was 13, I think. So I had a dicky heart, I had bad lungs and asthma attacks, and then you'd have an asthma attack, and then your heart would go flat as well. So I died about 6 times. And they brought me over my childhood and they brought me back to life. I was 13 and I was at the cinemas in this town and my sister was there as well, who was in at the time. So she was driving and I had an asthma attack again. So when I have an asthma attack, I've got about 10 minutes before my heart goes down. That's standard routine. So it's a matter of getting the car, get to the hospital. There's no time for an ambulance back then with me. So my sister had this dicky car and the passenger door, you couldn't get in. You used to have to climb in through the driver's door, climb across to the passenger or just sit in the back. So we got out of the cinemas and she just opened the passenger door. It just opened. It hadn't opened in years, so it seems. So, and she took off and made it to the hospital. And anyway, I don't recall anything else. And I woke up in intensive care and I said, sorry, posed myself sorry. I said to her, well, nearly got me this time. She slapped me across the face. I'm in intensive care. She slaps me across the face and says, don't ever say that again. Here, I'm in intensive care. I'm the patient here. And here I am being whacked. So anyway, the good news from my side of things, all my doctors are dead and I'm still kicking. Wow. That wasn't
number one.
This isn't the podcast that I was expecting, and it certainly wasn't the start that I was expecting. So I don't know how you coped as a parent, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know how my parents coped. It's just a horrible position you found yourself in, but you recognize that as a breaking point, a cutoff, and a start to a new life. And that is incredibly brave as well, Howard.
I appreciate that. But I want to, before we continue on, I want to acknowledge you in terms of the bravery of bringing that story up.
Still not with it.
Yeah. It's one of those are those defining moments that for you having to go through that so early, you've appreciated every day since. And you're like, what's the worst that can happen? The business goes under. Who gives a crap? I nearly died 6 times before the age of 13.
I did die 6 times, not nearly.
I mean, so it's like, put it in perspective in terms of like, okay, a business goes under. Who cares? Everyone will find new jobs. I'll dust myself off and I'll try again. It's like, I've literally died 6 times. You can't get any closer to what's the worst that can happen. And that's probably the reason why you're here now, is because you've just had this intense tenacity, whether you liked it or not, to just say, I know what the worst is, and I'm still here, and I'm still present, and I've been successful. So I applaud you, and I really, truly appreciate you sharing that story. I want to just close the loop on my story, though, because I know your audience is going to be like, is your son okay now? He's 19, 18 inches less of intestines, some cool scars, no long-term health issues. So it was just a freak thing that happened. But it was, again, the life wake-up call for, at least for me, in terms of, try and find your authentic path. You don't have to follow in terms of what you thought society wanted from you. And so I'll keep the story going in terms of the transition away from dentistry. I'm sitting with another dentist over lunch, and they asked the obvious question, how are you walking away? Now, I don't know what it is in Australia, but dentists here in the US have a tremendous amount of debt. The 2 most expensive dental schools in the United States are New York University in New York City and University of Southern California, which is in LA. Those 4 years of dental school, just dental school, they tell the incoming classmen $800,000 a debt.
Wow.
I'm not talking university. I'm not talking if you specialize. I'm not talking if you buy a practice or start a practice. You still have to live somewhere. You probably have cars. I'm not talking any of that. I'm just talking dental school. Those 2 schools are telling people $800,000 a debt. Average dental school in the US is probably closer to about $350,000 to $400,000. Still not insignificant, for a career you don't even know if you're going to like.
And there's interest on top of those loans?
Oh, of course. Of course there is.
It's the land of the free.
Yes. Though someone's free. I'm not sure who it is. But so this person, this dentist, he asked me, how are you walking away? And I make one dumb comment to him. I said, I kind of figured out how to make money move. Now he gave me that look of like, what are you talking about? I tried to explain things that day. I just didn't do a good job. But a few weeks later, I get the next statement in the mail for my house payment. I take a picture of it truly as a joke. I send it to him and I said, hey, take a look at this. Craig, my house payment was $24.19.
Wow.
And I don't care if that's euros, $1,000,000, Canadian dollars, US dollars. It was $24, which is going to be cheap in no matter what currency it is. And all he could write back is, I see it. I don't understand how you can have a $24 house payment. Buying a condo next month, will you be my coach? Okay. He pays off the condo in 8 months instead of the traditional 30-year mortgage that they have in the US. And so he tells his business partner, I tell a friend of mine what happened. They become the next 2 people I help. And now instead of listening to my head, I'm listening to my heart. And it says the way you're going to make an impact in this world, it's not dentistry anymore. It's going to be teaching what I call the new rules of finance and the system around it so that they can get to their freedom sooner. And so that's what I do now.
So does this only work for dentists?
No. I mean, it works for anyone, but from a external marketing perspective, the people that I focus on are dentists because I can speak to them. I understand all of the pain points, going through dental school, being an owner, dealing with team members, all the good, bad, and ugly around it. So I resonate with them just better than other industries, but everyone's got a cash flow issue. Maybe Elon Musk doesn't, okay, and Bill Gates doesn't, but everyone's got a cash flow issue. So how do we mitigate this so that we don't have to stress in terms of having all of these fixed debt payments in our life and make everything essentially discretionary, faster, more efficient than possible? That's what I try and teach.
Well, I think we've got to put a deliberate pause in here so that people can come to grips with what you've just said there. Wow. Okay. So what I do is I try and give people the biggest cash flow injection in their life by doing exits, by doing roll-ups of allied health and dental practices and giving them a big exit. But the problem with that is that I can only deal with good companies, good businesses. And if their numbers aren't right, then they don't really, it's difficult, it's a challenge. But with what you're talking about there, you're talking about turning it around as well, turning the business around and their personal cash flow around as well.
This all started on the personal side, and then I realized, like, wait a second, if I'm dealing with small business owners, can I apply the same principles to the business? And if they have more cash flow there, where is it going to fall over to? It's going to fall over to their personal side. So you get this flywheel effect. And this is one of those that when we talked earlier, it's a healthy discussion point. I'm not saying my way is the only way and it's the right way. I'm not saying your way is the only way and the right way. It's we're utilizing debt in different ways. It's just, what is your ultimate goal? And so I don't want to beat around the bush. I'll just explain what I'm utilizing are lines of credit. The biggest one being, it's called in the US a home equity line of credit. In Australia, you may know it more commonly as an offset mortgage.
We used to have line of credits here in Australia, but they have they've been replaced by the offsets. You're correct. But we definitely had the same instrument previously.
Yeah. And so just to define it, no matter where you live, is that with a traditional mortgage, it's a one-way street. It's a titanium safe. The money or the payment goes in, and then it's stuck. You can't get it back out. But with an offset mortgage or with a line of credit, it's now an open-ended tool. And so when I receive my income, I can put all of the income against the debt. And when you lower the debt, the balance of the debt, you're lowering the amount of interest you're charged on a daily basis. But let's just say that you put $10,000 in today, you can get the $10,000 back out tomorrow. And that's the whole key to this. And so I'm using what's known as a simple interest open-ended tool against these fixed amortized payments, and in a strategic way to pay down that traditional mortgage that might take 30 years, do it depending upon the cash flow, usually under 10, if not under 7 years. And so when you start to think in terms of, my God, if I can pay off my home in 23 to 25 years faster, that entire payment now stays in my pocket. It can be invested somewhere else. Like, that's a massive change in terms of just feeling this burden every single month. So again, my thing's not perfect. I'm aware of that. But for the right people that understand income needs to be greater than expenses, they're already putting away for retirement, whatever the system is in whatever country. They have that emergency fund set up, and now they have this extra money, and they're just like, now what the heck do I do? That is the perfect person to be utilizing a system like this, because you can now be patient until the opportunity comes up. And when it does, you've built up this kitty that now you can strike. And most importantly, you know how to pay yourself back faster.
This is not a new thing, Howard, what you're talking about here. This has been around for a while, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, Australia is where this all started. It's been nearly 25 years that it started there. I can't remember which bank began it. I think it was either Macquarie or Australian National Bank, one of the two. But yeah, you guys were the ones who originated this, and then it got to the UK, then it got to Canada, and then the concept finally got to the US. And it's once I saw it, which was now almost 10 years ago, I was like, this is the most logical thing I've ever seen. But it's not taught in the US for one simple reason. If we're cutting the amount of interest, or we're saving all of this interest for you, the client, or you, the customer, who's losing out? The bank. Why would they ever show this to you to literally cut their own head off? Yeah. They're never going to do it. And so you need people like me to say, look, there's two sets of rules: the rules that they put in place by default and the rules that are there by design, if only you knew how to design it.
I remember the first time that I saw this, and it was in the latter half of 2003. I was in an investment seminar, and there was an accountant speaking up on stage, head of accountants speaking up on stage. And the host of the seminar was walking around the room while this guy was presenting. And I was trying to pick my jaw up off the ground when I was seeing how this worked. And the next person beside me, I wrote, "My brain hurts." And the organizer of this investment seminar was standing behind me in the dark, and I feel this flip behind my head as he banged me on the back of the head.
Is that your sister hitting you again?
This is becoming a trend, isn't it? I feel as though I should be on that NCIS show now. You know, the guy there, Tony DiNozzo or something, keeps on getting hit on the head by Mark Harmon. But that's a good point. Well picked up. So yes, I now understand the strategy of what you're doing here. And it is a great help to the dental community in that, get rid of your debt, then your business will be doing better as well, because you're not sucking. Because I've got to say that here in Australia, if you go through a dental practice's finances, what you find is that a lot of income is taken out for personal reasons. And that makes the numbers look bad from a business that is really ready to sell, because it's not ready to sell if you've got personal income, personal debts, and that coming out of your practice. It makes the numbers look bad. And from the beginning of our discussion here, it became very obvious that we need to plan our exit. We need to have a strategy for moving forward if the worst happens.
100%.
You can't do that if your numbers are bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's even if you're not planning to sell. I mean, I'm going to share a very poignant story where one of my clients, this was back in November 2024, so about 6-7 months ago, she texts me. She's like, guess what happened to me in September? I'm like, I don't know. COVID? Like, it was just so out of the blue, it made no sense. She goes, no, 2 ruptured aneurysms and a mini stroke. Greg, she's 46 years old.
Oh, that's just wrong.
I don't think if she were to write out what she wanted in the vision of her life, it was college, dental school, have a practice, get married, have 2 kids, have 2 aneurysms, have a stroke, live in ICU for 3 weeks, have brain surgery, and then live happily ever after. I'm just guessing that's not what she would write out.
No.
But it happened. And of course I ask, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine and doing better. But thank God you told me about getting a business line of credit in place, because production went way down. No kidding, but that was the lifeline.
Yes.
Now, I bring this story up because the hilarious part is we did this on the business side. The spouse thinks what I do is complete voodoo nonsense.
Mm.
And I know you're not a lawyer. I know I'm not a lawyer. But Craig, if your spouse was having brain surgery, how productive do you think you would be if you had a job?
Not at all. That's why you have insurance.
Yeah. And so the spouse does have a W-2 job, but like, no, you're sitting in a freaking hospital for 3 weeks,
Yes.
hoping that your loved one recovers okay. So we never did the home equity line of credit or the offset mortgage idea on the personal side. But if we did, their cash flow would have improved $40,000 a year, and they would have had access to cash of $1 million.
Mm.
Would you believe that life would be a little bit easier and a little bit less stressful if you knew that your expenses were $40,000 a year less and you had access to $1 million just in case?
Yeah, that is, I would say, life changing, but no, it's not about change. It's about stability. It's about relief, isn't it?
That's it. That's it. Because stuff like this happens. We never know when it's going to happen. That's why it's just random. But it's the ability to have that peace of mind, that flexibility, that when life does kick you kick you wherever you want, or in your case, slap you across the face, couple times for you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
You have the ability to withstand it because you're like, I've got enough buffer, I've got enough breathing room. We're going to be okay. I don't need to make a rash decision here. And everything is going to be fine. That's the point of this, is to just know we can roll with the punches because we're going to get punched.
So, okay, let me see if I can summarize this. You've got an instrument for the business. You've got one for the personal. It's about risk mitigation, so that if and when something happens, you've got a safety net there that isn't insurance, that isn't coming out of your personal household budget fund. You're paying down education debt. You're keeping your business afloat, and you're making your business numbers better by minimizing that risk and getting rid of personal debt as well, because you then don't have to suck money out of the business to go to personal stuff. Did I get any of that right or wrong?
You're 100% correct, with a slight caveat. And that is, your business may not sell for a higher number because we're dealing with stuff that is based upon, that's not shown in income and loss. It doesn't really move the needle from an EBITDA perspective. But from a cash flow perspective, if that money is now available, you could use that money towards marketing to then increase collections, to then increase EBITDA that way. But on the surface, everything else is correct. It's just in terms of, I don't really move the needle of the enterprise value with what I do. It's just that the money is now staying in your pocket and not being forced to all of these fixed payments for all of the equipment that you had to buy in the case of a dental office.
Okay. Let me go a bit more into that, because I just wanted, as I said, my experience is that money comes out of the dental practice and into personal use. That's bad from a numbers perspective for the business and preparedness for sale. So that's bad. That's pretty normal, really, but it's not good. If you are eliminating the debt, the personal debt, and cash flow will not be going from the business to personal. It will be going into business acquisition, business expansion, advertising, and such, thereby making the numbers better. Yes?
Okay, I see. So let's just use easy round numbers. So if someone needed $100,000 a year to live, what you're saying is they run their practice and then they're taking 100,000 out. But now if we were able to remove the debt payments from their personal life, now they can have the same personal life, and let's just say at 70,000. So that 30,000 can stay in the business. That 30,000 could then be used to pay off other business debts. But if we pay off those other business debts, all I was trying to get at is that doesn't change the value of the business.
Having
Because
cash in the business is good from a sale perspective. Having cash actually sitting in a bank account or ready for use.
The yes, but from talking to a number of people that have sold to private equity and what are called dental service organizations here in the US, they don't care in terms of how much debt is there. They care about how much operating income or operating profit you have before you have to pay. And that's what I'm getting at, is that when we pay off the debt, it is after that EBITDA line.
Okay.
But it's EBITDA that determines the enterprise value, not in terms of net after all debts paid off. That's not where they're valuing it at.
Yeah. No, that's good. Okay. So have you only done this for yourself and for your mate that you were chatting with? Or have you done this for a couple of other people over the years?
Yeah, I've been able to do it for a number of people. More than half of my clients happen to be dentists. But for the average business owner, the cash flow improvement has been over $65,000 in year one of doing this. That range has been anywhere from 15,000 up to $290,000. So literally this couple has an extra $25,000 a month just sitting in their pocket that they can do whatever they want with. For an employee, a non-business owner, it has still been an improvement of over $3,000 a month. So it really is more in terms of, are you a good steward of your money, and how do we just create greater efficiency in terms of the flow of money and think of it just there in terms of water going down a stream. If we can get the big rocks out of the way, your house payment, your car payment, your student loans out of the river, the water flows smoother. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay, hang on there. I've missed something here. Did you just say that this works for employees as well?
Yes.
Seriously? Wow. Okay. Doesn't that change the game then? So you're talking not just the business owners, but everybody in the dental practice pretty much can benefit from this.
They can, yes.
There's going to be a few asterisks there, I imagine.
Right. It still comes back to cash flow. Is your income greater than your expenses on a consistent basis? If it is, then the system can work. If it's not, then it does not matter what you do. I don't live in Harry Potter land. So, math is just math. But yes, it can work. It can work for people that are good stewards of their money.
Wow. Well, this has been a bit of a roller coaster in a conversation today. We've gone up, we've gone down, we've gone sideways with some of these and even got into some maths. I think that anybody that can improve their cash flow, reduce their risk, reduce their debt, that's an essential thing for everybody. And they need to investigate that as an option. Absolutely. Because if you can keep your cash flow under control and reduce your debt, then that's going to improve your life, short-term, long-term. So I think that's an essential conversation. Now, I've got some details for you. You've got TikTok. Way to go there. You've got some website details. I can put all that at the end of this conversation for people to catch up with you. Now, you've mentioned Australians here, we're ahead of the time. And I think you said we're ahead by 23 years there earlier. So that's not bad. So you don't mind dealing with Australians at all, by the sound of it?
No, not at all. So far, my furthest client away is in the UK, but I'd be happy to have an Australian that would give me a good reason to come and visit.
Well, I think we need to wind it up here. Thanks, Howard. But I think there's been so much that people could get out of this. And thank you for ruining my business. If everybody's own their own business outright and don't need to sell or anything like that, then I'm just ruined. Thanks for that, Howard. Really appreciate it.
Glad I could help you, Craig.
I just feel as though I've been slapped around the cheek now. Okay. Thank you so much, Howard.
Appreciate it.